Cheers, Shelley. I want to start with two tributes. One of them I made in the other room. Since Eddie's on the platform, I want to start with two tributes. First, a tribute to the heroes of the RMT.
Hey.
It's relevant because the RMT say, like the Palestinian people and like so many other people all over the world, that human beings should live and work in dignity and should not be treated like dirt. The RMT are here with us today, and let us pledge that we will be with them on their picket lines in future. Secondly, I want to pay tribute, others may have done it already, I've been in the other room, but I want to pay tribute to the Stop the War Coalition. Rarely has a political movement been so maligned by the mainstream, and never, as far as I can think, never has an organised political movement been proved more consistently right in every single prediction that it made, in every single warning that it delivered. Rarely so maligned, never so right. Comrades, I think these two facts might be connected. I want to start with some words from a great Jewish hero of mine, Walter Benjamin, who said, and these words have been on my mind so much in the horror of the last few weeks, that even the dead will not be safe from the enemy if he wins. Israel talks, when people die, about terrorists. We're killing terrorists, they say. And I think of the baby boy pulled from the rubble where his parents spent years building a home that was destroyed in an instant. Terrorists. Even the dead will not be safe from the enemy if he wins. Okay, the Israelis say, they're not all terrorists, but some of them are human shields. And I think of the elderly grandparents who flee the homes they built with their families for decades onto a motorway because Israel tells them to flee that way to save their lives, and then Israel bombs the route they're fleeing on. Human shields. Even the dead will not be safe from the enemy if he wins. Or it gets worse. Terrorists, human shields, then some of the dead just don't exist. Hamas figures. I think of the people under constant bombardment, the workers at the Gaza Health Ministry compiling every single name to try to say to the world, this is what's being done to us. This is how we're being killed. Please pay attention. Terrorists, human shields. We can't even trust the figures. They didn't live. They didn't die. Even the dead will not be safe from the enemy if he wins. We march and organise for the living. We march and organise because we have to check every few minutes what the death toll is because it climbs. It climbs and climbs, and we watch in real time on our TV screens as more and more children die, and we just want it to stop. They call us hateful for it. We march for the living so that they may continue to live, so that the killing can stop not for an hour of a humanitarian cause, but stop for good. And we march too for the dead, so that they may one day be remembered as the martyrs of a free people, and not as terrorists or human shields, or people who never really lived or died at all. Even the dead will not be safe from the enemy if he wins, and Benjamin says this enemy has not ceased to be victorious. You know, I've met many people in recent weeks. It's been an extraordinary few weeks of carnage and horror, but also of hope. I've met many people who have not been political in the past, but who have come to this movement that is emerging. Because they have learned now what the rules-based international order means. They've learned now what the liberal internationalism of American-friendly supervision means. They're learning that it means the kind of constant barbarism that says to many people in this room, this is what we think of your children too. Poorer people and darker people, this is what we think of your children too. Their lives don't matter, their deaths don't matter. People are learning that now. And so people come to politics through that humanitarian impulse, which sees horror and is horrified. Nothing human, Marx said, is alien to me. But the space between humanitarianism and politics is the space of explanation and analysis, the space that asks, why? Why this carnage? Why this brutality? Why target journalists? Why target UN workers? The UN says People in an emergency need at least 15 litres of water a day for drinking and washing, and all our requirements in Gaza, they get less than 3 litres. Why? Diarrhea spreads now and cholera spreads. Why create an artificial humanitarian crisis? Why bomb people with white phosphorus? Something they can't deny because we can see it. Why bomb people with a weapon? What military function is served by a weapon whose chief quality is that it burns the skin to a crisp, burns it off the flesh? Why? We are witnessing the punishment of Gaza, and it is a punishment known to people all over the world, from Ireland to Algeria, from the Americas to Vietnam, punished for one thing above all, that they refuse to disappear. Palestine has been punished since before 1948, because its people are marked out for dispossession, just as millions have been marked all over the world, so that others may live in peace and safety. Palestinians are pummeled so that the colonial state, which sits atop their stolen, broken homes, may sit there in comfort and safety. And so it is no small wonder that the same politicians and leaders everywhere who seek to strip poorer and darker people of dignity by cutting their benefits or exploiting their labour, by starving their schools and hospitals and council homes of funds so that the money may flow to champagne at the top, it's no small wonder that those same leaders see something to recognise and support in the Israeli state. Wasn't British capitalism also born in the dispossession of its peasants and the kidnapping of people overseas for free labour? So the great irony of all that talk of Israel as a Jewish state is that it represents only the tragic move of many Jews. I see it, I grew up with many people who feel this, who after centuries of endless brutalisation by Western civilization said, if we can't beat them, join them. Israel is an exemplar not of any Jewish values, but of the violence that has for so long ruled the West. It is just about the most Gentile thing I can think of. The language that Israel now uses, I don't mean all Gentiles, some Gentiles are fine. Just not the ones with a lot of power in Western countries. The language Israel now uses, human animals. Where did they learn that language? They didn't take it from our great religious traditions. Human animals. They took it from the European colonialists who went to Africa and the Americas and Asia and brutalized and massacred people. Human animals. And where did they learn it? Those European colonialists. They didn't invent it when they went to Africa and Asia and the Americas and massacred people. They honed it for 2,000 years against my people, who killed God, so had to be excluded and exiled and massacred. That's why we must take no lessons from anyone who supports Israeli carnage about anti-Semitism. We stand in the tradition of those who fought racism and fascism. We stand in the tradition of those who refuse to bow before Nazism and the Holocaust when we say people should not be called human animals and marked out for dispossession and massacres. Everyone everywhere should have the right to live in peace and freedom, and we make no apologies to anyone for saying it. When they talk of people killed in Israel and say it's a pogrom, it's an insult to my family members, murdered for centuries by European civilization in pogroms, who were not colonial settlers who didn't steal anyone else's land. It's an insult when they say Palestinians are like the Nazis of the Holocaust because they want to live. They don't care about the religion of their colonizer. They just want to live in peace and freedom, compared to the Nazis of the Holocaust. And by whom? By the European civilization, which for centuries honed and pioneered anti-Semitism, and now by German politicians who demand loyalty oaths of Arabs. It's exactly the same tradition they meted out to us as Jews. We won't stand for it. We stand in the anti-fascist tradition. So they call us hate marchers. Listen to that when they call us hate marchers. They see a constituency that they have always feared and loathed. The multiracial working class city. People struggling in shit jobs, struggling with high rents, wondering whether to have kids as climate catastrophe looms. They see people wondering if their lives can be anything other than precarity and abuse. They see people suddenly inspired by the colours of the Palestinian flag, which now appears all over London, and the police try to take it down, and so people paint it onto walls? Why? Why are people inspired by the colours of the Palestinian flag? Because it represents a certain defiance. When even against all the odds, when everything seems stacked against you, you refuse to surrender. These are truly global dividing lines. Colonial power soothes itself with stories of its enlightened, civilized superiority over the colonized. We say ceasefire, so they hear jihad. We say intifada, so they hear ethnic cleansing. Colonial power always works with this logic of projection. They blame others for what they do themselves. That's why they call others savages and barbarians. Because the one possibility they cannot really face is that the people they have dispossessed, this is the thing that really scares them, the thought that the people they have dispossessed are not apes, but thinking, feeling human beings who carry with them the noblest, the most beautiful idea known to humanity, freedom. A world where nobody lives in anybody else's stolen home. A world where all our resources are shared so that nobody is kept from food and shelter at gunpoint. Anywhere, all over the world, those who drown in the Mediterranean trying to reach safety, they know this hope. They class the Palestinian flag as a hope of freedom, too. We who march for Palestine hold that hope of a world where our resources are shared and our lives are lived in dignity. We clasp that hope. We refuse to surrender it, even in a sea of cynicism, even in a sea of violence. And now, when others tell us to give up and give in, we know what we'll say. We have no right to surrender the hope of a better, a freer, a more dignified world for all. What right could we have if after 70 years of ongoing Nakba, the Palestinian people have refused to surrender? So I finish on this. Ours is not a movement of charitable concern. There's a word people in my generation use sometimes I don't like very much, allyship. As if we're separate from others and we're just supporting them. This is not a movement of charitable concern. This is a global movement of solidarity, where we link arms and learn from one another across borders. Millions marching from Indonesia to Washington, D.C. A global movement where we refuse all of their miserable capitalist and imperialist logic of alienation and mutual isolation, separation across borders. And we say, in struggling for freedom, this is what I'm going to be thinking on Saturday. And I'm going to think it whatever the British government says, and I'm going to think it when I come out to march and organise, even if they ban us. I'm going to be there with the Palestinian flag, not out of charitable concern because people are dying, but out of hope, taking courage from the confidence and the perseverance, the steadfastness of the Palestinian people. We say when we march, we are walking like a Palestinian. We are singing and dancing and standing tall like a Palestinian. So that one day, they think from the river to the sea is bad. Well, listen to this. One day, from every ocean to every sea, everyone, everywhere will be free.